All right, we're here for our Cannabis Community Chat, and joining us on a beautiful Saturday here in Portland is Jeremy Echols. His son Alex has been featured in numerous stories that made national news attention, and we'll let Jeremy tell the story. Jeremy, thanks for being here and taking the time to come out.
Oh, no problem.
I really appreciate it. We've been working with Brave Michaela Comstock quite a bit, who's another young person who received a lot of notoriety for being on the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program at the age of 7. Let's tell your story of your son Alex, his age, and how you came to bring him into a medical cannabis treatment.
Well, Alex, right now he's 11. When he first started cannabis was when he was 8, and there's a lot of information you kind of have to understand before then to get his full picture. He has a condition. He was diagnosed at 6 weeks with what's called tuberous sclerosis. It causes growths on various organs throughout the body, brain, kidneys, liver, heart, and he's got involvement all over. It's the number 2 leading genetic cause of autism. So with the tuberous sclerosis, not surprisingly, he ended up with autism as well. When he was around 3 years old, he started hurting himself in small ways, kind of tapping his head against the walls harder and harder until he would make himself cry. When it first happened, we really didn't know what was going on. We didn't think much of it because it just kind of disappeared after a week or so. And then the next year it came back, and it was a little stronger. And then by the time he was 5, it was kind of a thing that was on and off. He would be hitting walls with his head. He'd be hitting himself with his hands.
But not consistently, so you couldn't really get a handle on what's going on?
No. Around the time he was 5, it started to get more consistent, but before then we had no idea what was going on. And we still really don't understand what prompts this kind of behavior.
Sure.
If he's just frustrated, if he's feeling pain, if he's feeling some kind of emotion that I might just have no idea how to understand. I don't know.
So as a 5-year-old, doctors are taking him to doctors. They don't know what to tell you at this point, I imagine.
Basically, yeah. We got the spiel that it's something that some autistic kids do. And, you know, I don't know that it's just limited to autism. It doesn't seem like everyone with this kind of behavior is autistic, but that's kind of what we've been told, is that he's got autism, he's going to do strange things, we're not going to understand it, you know.
That's not very reassuring.
No. We didn't know what to do. Once he was 6, and then 7, he would get really, really intense with it. He put his head through a wall at one point.
Wow.
He was hitting himself to such an extent that a light slap over and over and over again would eventually cause him to, you know, split his skin and start bleeding. He would start rubbing at his forehead really hard, causing that to bleed. And it just kept getting worse. When he was 8, we started having to talk about putting him in a group home because we didn't really know how to take care of him. We didn't.
And you're working at this time, I imagine.
Yeah.
Is your wife working?
She couldn't. She was never able to go back to work.
Sure.
Because before the self-injury even manifested, he was still a pretty full-time kid.
Right.
So, you know, 6 weeks in, he's having seizures, and we're having to deal with medications and figure things out and talk to doctors. So that kind of became her full-time job.
Well, you mentioned medications. What kind of medications? I mean, it must be like a laundry list of these things.
When it was just seizures, we had the seizure meds. We had phenobarbital, Tegretol, Keppra, Lamictal. There were a bunch. I can't remember all the seizure meds at this point.
And side effects that go with them.
Oh yeah, there were some good ones. I think it was the Lamictal, but I can't remember for sure, that had a potentially fatal rash. So if you saw a rash, you stop the medicine, take him into the doctor immediately.
Whoa.
Yeah. And some of them, you know, you don't really know what the side effects for long-term use are going to be. But you know seizures are bad.
Sure.
So, you know, you don't have a whole lot of choice.
Right.
Once the behavior started, we had to try whole different cocktails of medicines because seizure meds aren't traditionally used for a psychotic rage.
Right.
So we jumped into things like Zoloft for starters, relatively small dose to try and just calm
And at what age? At what age are we getting into Zoloft and some of these?
I'm going to say it was probably 6 when we started seeing a psychiatrist. I can't remember for sure.
Because these things are pretty heavy-duty drugs, and they're not tested for kids, if I'm not mistaken.
We haven't found a whole lot of information on. They might be tested to see if they work short-term. I don't think there's any long-term information out there.
Okay.
Zoloft was one of the better ones, really, as far as side effects go. There were, Valium, not something you want to put your kid on very often.
Right. Now, was there any effect from these? Did they work to some extent?
Yeah, they usually worked for a little while. At least at first, they worked for a little while. Mm-hmm. Once he got really, really dangerous at 7 and 8 years old, nothing did much of anything for him.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you want a full list of the medications or what.
No, we'll get the picture. I'm sure it's huge, and we talk about some of these drugs on the show too that are commonly prescribed for kids going through these certain situations, and we've often listed the laundry list of side effects where you often have to have another pill to deal with the pill.
Yeah,
and we're just, these are developing bodies and developing brains, and we're kind of just rolling the dice. But like you say, you're a father in a situation where obviously the alternative is not acceptable. Yeah. So you try anything. So you get to the point where you've tried all these drugs, you've tried all these doctors, not many answers coming to you. What leads to medical cannabis? How does that happen?
That was kind of a joke at first, actually.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. My wife and I both, we grew up in the 80s thinking just say no, drugs are bad, there's no exceptions. We at some point made some joke about how cannabis could help him because it would calm him down, it'd chill him out, And it was one of those we're in a desperate situation and what if, So we started looking and my wife finds what's her name? California, Joey?
Yeah, Miko Hester Perez.
Yes. We found that story online and we were going, wait, seriously?
Because Miko's son Joey, I believe, wasn't he the one who had the pica that was eating his shirts?
I thought he wasn't eating, and that was
something like that. It was an amazing story.
But yeah, so we saw that, and we saw some other one. I can't remember, unfortunately, but
could be Marie Myung-ok.
Yeah, I think so. And we were just like, wow, so this is actually legit. Medical cannabis is real? What?
What?
Yeah. And we started looking into the laws in Oregon. Didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into, but we thought, hey, it's worth a try. Mm-hmm. We went to an alternative health clinic in Ashland, told them the situation, and submitted his paperwork. And the doctor basically told us, there's no way I'm going to approve this for a kid. A week or two later, he came back and said, this is a cut and dry case. He's had all these conditions. He's had all these medications. You're getting the card.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where the doctors look at it as medicine of last resort almost.
Yeah.
Well, you've jumped through all the hoops. You've tried all the pills.
Yeah.
Might as well try pot.
Yeah.
Okay, so go on.
And that's where things kind of got murky.
Yeah.
We didn't really understand the laws. We thought you get the card and then there's someone who's going to give you what you need.
Oh, oh no, that's the weed fairy here.
Yeah.
That's the weed fairy.
And
so no access.
We had no access. We got a donated supply of, I believe it's the same stuff that the Rick Simpson oil.
Right. And for some people that might not know, we talk about these kids that are on the medical marijuana program, and no, they are not pulling bong rips or smoking joints or anything. First of all, their little fingers can't roll. No, that's not. That's just a joke. But no, we're talking about oils and capsules and such. Cookies, in some people's cases, they'll use edibles.
Yeah. So we got a donated supply of the oil, and we gave it a try, and we didn't know what we were doing, so we gave him something that might be like a drop. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to describe it really. It was really small amount, didn't do anything. So then we tried a larger amount, and it knocked him out, put him to sleep. And, we kept fiddling with it, trying to figure out what a dose was.
Sure. Now, you're getting them. I know some people will put these in syringes where you can mark off a millimeter, or a milliliter or whatever, cc, whatever it might be.
Yeah. At the time, we didn't think of any of this stuff.
Sure.
We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what the options were.
So this has got to be kind of frustrating. You come from the medical world, the Western medical world, where they're giving you these specific pills with specific doses. Take them at every 3 hours with a meal. Don't have milk, etc., etc. You turn to the medical cannabis world, you get something that seems to work, but as far as instructions or where to go,
no information.
Wow.
We figured out a good dose, but it was always on accident. We never could remeasure it out accurately. So, a few times there's a before and after video that we've posted of basically the best situation that we actually ever had, where he went from just tearing his face apart to playing with toys and just kind of looking at things and kind of examining and turning things over and doing something that he hadn't done in months.
Sure.
And so we're like, wow, this is amazing. So we're going to keep doing this, and we're going to figure out how to dose it right. But
there's no consistency.
There's no consistency.
From batch to batch, it could be a different strain. It could be a different
We didn't even have batch to batch to try.
Yeah.
We had one batch that was donated by the person at the alternative health clinic.
Wow.
And we couldn't figure out how to measure out the oil because, it's real thick, real small dose. And we couldn't figure out how to make it how to get it into a syringe to where we could actually get out a measurable dose because it was just really, really thick and sticky. So we ended up making it into brownies, which he wouldn't eat when he was mad.
Okay, so we have a problem getting the dose.
Yeah. And then we started figuring out that we were running out, and we realized we don't know anybody who has ever talked to us about pot. We just weren't those people. We were never involved in the underground. Yeah.
Like that. Okay.
So, I started talking to people that I worked with and found out to my surprise that basically every one of them was at least acquainted with marijuana at some point.
You were the one guy who wasn't.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic. So
and these are software engineers. These are smart people. And I was just blown away. I was like, smart people? And you guys use this stuff recreationally? It definitely turned around my perceptions a lot.
Wow.
Unfortunately, no one was able to get in touch with someone who could actually grow it for us regularly. So we kept trying to get a hold of a donated supply from the guy who'd given us the first one. We got someone who donated some hash to us, which was actually really good stuff too. But again, we didn't really know how to dose that compared to how we'd been dosing the other stuff, and we couldn't get consistent results because we couldn't dose it right. We would get a really good result 1 day out of 3.
Oh, that's just how it's almost more frustrating knowing you got something that will work, but then it's a crapshoot as to whether it's going to that day.
Yeah.
Wow. And so this is where you're at now. You're at a place where it's still tough access to come by, or have you secured better access?
Well, what happened from that point, his behaviors kind of spiraled out of control at that point. We couldn't get the results consistently, and we had to talk to the state to get him into a group home. We made a big point about him being on the medical cannabis program with the original home he was being placed with. And some kind of miscommunication happened. They thought we were talking about Marinol, which we tried actually, by the way.
Okay.
Didn't work. He doesn't swallow pills. Or now he might, but back then he wouldn't swallow pills. And Marinol doesn't come in any form other than these tiny little capsules.
Right.
Anyway, so we had a miscommunication. The center that took him wouldn't allow cannabis to be on their property. So we got another donated supply that we would bring up to him regularly until they found out that we were bringing it up to him regularly. We moved from Medford to Albany so that we could be closer to the place he had been put. and started trying to get a steady supply. We finally got a grower who is basically donating anything we need to us.
Good.
But I missed a step there. They moved him again down in the Eugene area, and then we moved again. So now we can actually see him 3 times a week, and we take him off of their premises in order to dose him, but they won't do it there. We have a supply. We still don't really know how to measure a dose because we can't see what works and what doesn't because we're only able to do it 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
So because of all these laws and loopholes and everything, we see good results. What we've been trying to describe it as is take his rage, put it on a scale of 1 to 10. If we give him cannabis within an hour, it's going to drop about 2 points. Sometimes we get really amazing results where a 10 will go down to a 0.
Wow.
But most of the time, it's about a 2-point drop. That's inconsistent dosing and not entirely knowing what we're doing. If we had consistent dosing, if we had a good amount of research that would tell us this strain is going to be really great for the specific condition your kid has, I think that would be a 10-point drop every time.
Yeah.
But we can't actually try it.
And the group home probably, in these circumstances either has some sort of federal grant or some sort of insurance, or it's some reason that twists their arm to force them not to have this. Because, sometimes we report on these stories, there are the people out there that are just, wicked and don't like it. It's pot and it's bad. But by and large, the researchers and the doctors and the people that work in the field that have patient care, they want to see their patients do better. And it tears them up that they can't dose on site or help the kids like this. How has the reaction been as far as the medical professionals you work with?
We haven't really broached the subject with a lot of them. Mm-hmm. His pediatrician knows about it and has actually done 2 of the renewals for the card. So we're not going to an alternative doctor anymore. We're actually going straight to his pediatrician.
So the pediatrician, his direct pediatrician, is signing for the card, because that's pretty rare.
Yeah, and his pediatrician says, I hate medical marijuana, but in this case, it makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We would like to start a conversation with more people in the medical community, but it's his main group of doctors are up here in Portland. Mm-hmm. So when we come up to Portland for a doctor visit, it's usually a very specific thing, and it's, there's a lot going on. We're driving up, we're trying to just get through the appointment, whatever's going on. So saying, hey, can we set aside an hour to talk to you about something totally unrelated to what we're here for, just doesn't really happen.
Yeah. And it's frustrating to me to hear these stories, to think, here's, on one side, we have perfect case and need for legitimate testing and organized scientific inquiry. On the other side, we have people who have the skills and tools to be able to do that, but this little prohibition in between that keeps these two sides apart, and kids suffer because of this, and it's just very frustrating. I'm wondering, Jeremy, if Washington State legalizing marijuana has perhaps given you any ideas of maybe Seattle, and if that would open up the chance for them to do more research because it's legal there.
I would hope so. I would think so. You've got, Washington and Colorado both legalizing, and I would expect some research to be coming out of there, but I don't think it's going to be research in time for us. I kind of see the goal that we have now is making other people realize that this is an option. And if we can somehow push to get Alex dosed daily by someone who knows what they're doing and get the right strain figured out and stuff like that, that would be great. And if we could bring him home, that would be ideal. But realistically, it feels like it's too late for our situation.
I don't think it's ever too late. I think we can get enough public support on this and more people understanding what's going on to push these legislators, push these hospital officials, all these in different angles, and have more political power toward it. I think we can make a difference.
I hope so.
If we could get the right dosage consistently and go from that 10 to 0, do you think that would be the key to bringing Alex back home? That would be possible?
If we could get that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. It's just, I don't know how to do it.
Well, let's see. There's a lot of people that listen to the show that are much more expert on these things than I, doctors and researchers out there. So we'll generate as much of that your way as we can. Is there an email address or any sort of contact you'd like to give our audience that could help you out?
We've got a blog set up, alexneedshelp.com. There's a Facebook page, which I can't remember the URL for, but
I'll find it.
You can get there from the blog too. So, yeah, we don't need donations of cannabis. We get a lot of offers for that, and we don't really need that.
Got that.
It's really more figuring out if there's a way to twist the arm of the place where he's placed. They get a lot of federal funding, so I'm not sure that that's likely, but I don't know, maybe there was a federal program for AIDS patients a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something like that could happen again? How did that get started?
And maybe somebody knows of other group home options that are more friendly to cannabis dosing.
Maybe.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
All right. Jeremy, it's just amazing what you're going through and the strength that you display in going through it and fighting through this. And to me, another remarkable aspect of the story is the flip in your mind from not having anything to do with the marijuana people or the medical marijuana and realizing, wait, smart people do this and it helps kids. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on our show. I so appreciate you being here, and anything we can do to help, we're here for you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right.